It's recommended to bond the concrete slab steel to the equipment grounding conductor of the generator. This will establish a grounding path for electrical faults that may occur within the generator. Secondly, install a supplementary ground rod and bond it to the concrete slab steel, the generator frame, and the equipment grounding conductor. This additional grounding point will enhance the overall grounding system by providing a low impedance path for fault currents. The grounding conductor to the concrete slab steel should be sized according to Table 250.122 of the National Electrical Code. This table provides specific requirements for the minimum size of grounding conductors based on the size of the equipment grounding conductor. By bonding the concrete slab steel to the equipment grounding conductor and installing a supplementary ground rod, you are creating a comprehensive grounding system that meets the requirements of the National Electrical Code. This system provides multiple paths for fault currents to flow, ensuring the safety of personnel and equipment in the event of a fault. To elaborate on the process, let's consider the specific steps and considerations involved in properly grounding a generator on a concrete slab, focusing on compliance with NEC 250.122 and best practices. The initial step involves connecting the concrete slab steel to the equipment grounding conductor. The equipment grounding conductor is the conductor that provides a low impedance path for fault currents back to the source, typically the generator's neutral point in a separately derived system or the main service panel in a non-separately derived system. This connection ensures that any fault current that may flow through the generator frame or other metallic parts in contact with the concrete slab will have a direct path back to the source, facilitating the operation of overcurrent protective devices such as circuit breakers or fuses. To make this connection, you will need to use appropriate bonding connectors and conductors. The bonding connectors should be listed for the purpose and suitable for direct burial in concrete, as they will be in contact with the concrete and potentially exposed to moisture. The conductors used for bonding should be copper or another approved material and should be sized according to NEC Table 250.122. This table specifies the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor based on the size of the overcurrent protective device protecting the circuit. For example, if the generator is protected by a 100 amp breaker, Table 250.122 may require a minimum of an 8 American wire gauge copper equipment grounding conductor. The connection to the concrete slab steel can be made by welding or using mechanical connectors designed for this purpose. Welding is a permanent connection and provides a very low impedance path, but it requires skilled labor and appropriate safety precautions. Mechanical connectors are easier to install but must be listed for direct burial in concrete and provide a secure and reliable connection. Ensure that the connection is made to multiple points within the concrete slab steel to provide a more effective grounding path. The second step involves installing a supplementary ground rod. This ground rod provides an additional path for fault currents to dissipate into the earth, further enhancing the grounding system. The ground rod should be at least 8 feet long and should be driven into the earth so that at least 8 feet is in contact with the soil. The location of the ground rod should be chosen carefully to ensure that it is in an area with good soil conductivity. Avoid areas with dry, sandy soil or areas that are prone to freezing, as these conditions can reduce the effectiveness of the ground rod. The ground rod should be made of copper or copper-clad steel and should be at least 5/8 inch in diameter. It should be driven into the earth until the top is at least 12 inches below grade to protect it from mechanical damage. The connection between the ground rod, the concrete slab steel, the generator frame, and the equipment grounding conductor should be made using a continuous conductor without any splices or joints. This conductor should be sized according to NEC Table 250.122, just like the equipment grounding conductor connecting the concrete slab steel. The connection to the ground rod should be made using a listed grounding clamp that is suitable for direct burial. The connection to the generator frame should be made to a designated grounding point on the generator. Most generators have a grounding lug or terminal specifically designed for this purpose. The connection to the equipment grounding conductor should be made within the generator's junction box or at the transfer switch. Sizing the grounding conductor according to NEC 250.122 is critical to ensure that the grounding system can effectively handle fault currents. Table 250.122 provides the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor based on the size of the overcurrent protective device protecting the circuit. The overcurrent protective device is the circuit breaker or fuse that is designed to interrupt the circuit in the event of a fault. The size of the overcurrent protective device is determined by the load that the generator is intended to supply. For example, if the generator is intended to supply a 100 amp load, it should be protected by a 100 amp breaker. According to NEC Table 250.122, a 100 amp breaker requires a minimum of an 8 American wire gauge copper equipment grounding conductor. If the generator is intended to supply a larger load, such as 200 amps, the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor would be larger, such as 6 American wire gauge copper. It is important to note that Table 250.122 provides the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor. In some cases, it may be necessary to use a larger conductor to ensure that the grounding system can effectively handle fault currents. This may be the case if the generator is located a long distance from the load or if the soil conductivity is poor. In these cases, it is recommended to consult with a qualified electrical engineer to determine the appropriate size of the equipment grounding conductor. In addition to sizing the equipment grounding conductor according to NEC 250.122, it is also important to ensure that the grounding conductors are properly installed and protected. The grounding conductors should be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner and should be protected from physical damage. They should be securely fastened to the concrete slab, the generator frame, and the ground rod using appropriate connectors and fasteners. They should also be protected from corrosion by using corrosion-resistant materials or coatings. Regular inspection and maintenance of the grounding system are also essential to ensure its continued effectiveness. The grounding connections should be inspected periodically to ensure that they are tight and free from corrosion. The ground rod should be tested to ensure that it is providing a low impedance path to ground. This can be done using a ground resistance tester. If the ground resistance is too high, the ground rod may need to be replaced or additional ground rods may need to be installed. By following these steps and adhering to the requirements of the National Electrical Code, you can ensure that the generator is properly grounded and that the electrical system is safe and reliable. Remember that working with electricity can be dangerous, so it is always recommended to consult with a qualified electrician if you are not comfortable performing these tasks yourself. Let's delve deeper into the specifics of selecting and installing the ground rod, as this is a critical component of the generator grounding system. The choice of ground rod material is primarily between copper and copper-clad steel. Copper ground rods offer excellent conductivity and corrosion resistance, but they can be more expensive than copper-clad steel rods. Copper-clad steel rods consist of a steel core with a copper cladding, providing a balance of strength, conductivity, and cost-effectiveness. For most residential and light commercial applications, copper-clad steel rods are a suitable choice. When selecting a ground rod, ensure that it is listed by a recognized testing laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories to meet the requirements of the National Electrical Code. The listing mark indicates that the ground rod has been tested and found to be safe and effective for its intended purpose. As mentioned earlier, the ground rod should be at least 8 feet long and 5/8 inch in diameter. Longer ground rods provide a larger surface area in contact with the soil, which reduces the ground resistance. A larger diameter rod is more resistant to bending and damage during installation. The installation location of the ground rod is also important. Choose a location that is free from underground utilities, such as water pipes, gas lines, and electrical cables. Contact the local utility companies to locate any underground utilities before driving the ground rod. The soil conditions at the installation location can also affect the effectiveness of the ground rod. Ideally, the soil should be moist and have a high conductivity. Avoid areas with dry, sandy soil or rocky soil, as these conditions can increase the ground resistance. If possible, choose a location that is near a dance pot or other source of moisture. To install the ground rod, use a ground rod driver or a hammer to drive it into the earth. A ground rod driver is a specialized tool that fits over the top of the ground rod and protects it from damage during installation. Drive the ground rod vertically into the earth until the top is at least 12 inches below grade. This protects the ground rod for mechanical damage and makes it less likely to be disturbed. Once the ground rod is installed, it is important to test its resistance to ground. This can be done using a ground resistance tester, which measures the resistance between the ground rod and a reference point in the earth. The ground resistance should be as low as possible, ideally less than 25 ohms. If the ground resistance is too high, you may need to install additional ground rods or treat the soil to improve its conductivity. To connect the ground rod to the grounding system, use a listed grounding clamp that is suitable for direct burial. The grounding clamp should be made of copper or bronze and should be securely fastened to the ground rod. The grounding conductor should be connected to the grounding clamp using a crimp connector or a compression connector. Ensure that the connection is tight and corrosion resistant. The grounding conductor should be sized according to NEC Table 250.122, as discussed earlier. Once the ground rod is installed and connected to the grounding system, it is important to document its location and resistance to ground. This information will be useful for future inspections and maintenance. It is also a good idea to take photographs of the installation before backfilling the hole, as this will provide a visual record of the grounding system. In addition to the ground rod, it is also important to bond the concrete slab steel to the grounding system. The concrete slab steel can provide a significant amount of grounding surface area, which can help to reduce the overall ground resistance. To bond the concrete slab steel to the grounding system, use bonding jumpers made of copper or aluminum. The bonding jumpers should be sized according to NEC Table 250.122 and should be securely fastened to the concrete slab steel using welding or mechanical connectors. The bonding jumpers should be connected to the grounding system at multiple points to ensure that the entire concrete slab is effectively grounded. Ensure that all connections are tight and corrosion resistant. By following these steps and adhering to the requirements of the National Electrical Code, you can ensure that the generator is properly grounded and that the electrical system is safe and reliable. It is always recommended to consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns about grounding a generator. Proper grounding is not only a matter of safety but also a requirement for code compliance, which can have legal implications.